my name is Alex Johansson. I'm going to be talking about what Gary kind of very lightly mentioned, which is game jams, which personally I think is one of the best things that you guys can get involved in, whether or not you go to uni. So yeah, let's get started. So who am I? Basically, my name is Alex, as I just said. I develop games, I do the art for them, I design, build them, the programming stuff. And yeah, I structure them and do all the level. Basically, do everything myself except the music, which I outsource. I've taught kids from 7 to 17, getting them to program their own games, and that's basically how I learned to program. Which was kind of terrifying at the beginning because it was having 7-year-olds screaming at you with no idea what you were doing. So yeah, if you are going to go down that route, get some experience first. But yeah, so I've built a bunch of games. The main thing that I've been working on for aeons is Narcissus, which is kind of a game where you have two characters that you got to control at the same time. And then there's probably about 25 different mini games and prototypes, which I'll probably put into some kind of WarioWare package or something like that at some point. I also kind of run networking events and I run game jams. I've probably done about 10 different game jams. The first one I did was it was 2012 or something, maybe? No, that sounds too early. 2013. That one was in Sheffield, and funnily enough, there was some of the team from Gang Beasts there who were testing out an early prototype for it, which was cool. And yeah, that was a really kind of exciting experience, having a stupidly short period of time. But I'll get into that. The other thing that I do is I run my own game jams, and I've been doing that for a good while now. I think we're up to 6 or 7, and the event has grown from probably about 7 or 8 people turning up to 50, which hopefully for the next event as well should, fingers crossed, double, but who the heck knows. So, for any of you that are kind of wondering, we've been kind of throwing around this buzzword, game jam. What is a game jam? Basically, I'm trying to think of something to compare it against. You've just got a stupidly short period of time to get something done. So let's say standard one's about 48 hours. You get a theme. So, ocean, you only have one. Beneath the surface, that's where sub-level came from. Yeah, all sorts of different themes. So you're starting from an absolute clean slate, and you just usually work with a random bunch of people, so programmers, musicians, artists, designers, whatever. I mean, we even had voice actresses and things, which is interesting. And yeah, it's just kind of work like nutcases and get it done as fast as you can. Usually to some very good results. So what I'm going to give you is kind of 10 good reasons to get involved in them, above anything else. First one is you get that kind of vertical slice of games development. You start at at the very early hours of, let's say, 9 in the morning, when most of you are probably still in bed. And yeah, you get an idea that's thrown out there, Ocean was the last one we did for the game jam just gone. And yeah, you just sit down and you come up with a very rough idea, and within 12 to 24 hours, depending on how long the jam is, you get a full-blown product. So much gets done in such a stupidly short period of time, and you go from concept to early alpha development to kind of adding a little bit more polish once you've got the base mechanics down, and then the kind of crazy crunch and rush at the end of it, and then it's shipped. And it's out there, it's in the out there for people to play, and that's awesome. To have got that done in such a stupidly short period of time. So I'd probably say that's one of the most useful things, because I can't remember who the quote's from, but they've said I think it's something the first 10 games that you will make will be bad. Get them out of the way first. So this is a very good way of doing that. The other kind of good thing it does is it gives you an idea that the end of a project is something that you can reach. except in a very short period of time, because there's this wonderful place called development hell, where you're kind of stuck in limbo trying to get to the end of the project, which I assume you'll have with like kind of crunches for studies and things, assuming that you guys are working hard. I don't know, but fingers crossed. And yeah, like knowing that you can get a project shipped and out there and people love the game is something that will drive you forth and get you to that finish line again. And every time you accomplish that, you'll gain more and more confidence with finishing your products. There's nothing more satisfying than pushing that thing that you've been working on out the door for other people to try. So definitely push that. You'll be working in an environment with a lot of different people with different experiences. It obviously depends on what event you're going to. Because until you start actually developing games, a lot of questions won't come up. It's like, I'm trying to think of an example. Like, if you go camping, you can learn as much as you want about camping. And it's like, this is like the worst example ever, but until you actually go out there and you realize that, you know, you have to go, there's loads of things that you didn't anticipate when you were learning how to do it, assuming that you did, that'll happen, and you have to learn those things on the spot and improvise. And it's the same with games development. You have to kind of, in a lot of cases, think on the spot, find best practices in a very short period of time, and it'll mean the next time that you do it, you've got those skills in place. Or you can ask questions like, I really need to learn this, why haven't I found this out yet? Because I've been at game jams where people have been like what, how do you do sprite sheets? And it's like, that's something that you should know how to do. Like that's like but it's great that people discover that by doing this. So it's a great opportunity for almost mentoring, because with that, if you go along to something like an official event of sort, you get people in industry who you'll be working with. So it'll be, you'll have programmers who've been in the industry for years. And yeah, like you'll be working with them, and they will give you tons of advice. An example from one of the ones I ran recently. He hadn't been in the industry for years, but I mentioned them before. The guys from Yes, Your Grace, which is a really cool game. You should check it out. He was giving kind of a primer to one of the students at the university how to do pixel art and how to kind of get the gradients right and sizing of everything. Which was a useful experience. And as well, you can learn about a bunch of different areas as well. So whilst you might not have, if you're programming, working with an artist, you'll actually get to find out what their perspective is on it. And if you're an artist, and you'll have to learn how to optimize your artwork to work in the game. So this is kind of an interesting one. Like you can experiment. For example, like one kind of very common thing that happens a lot is if you look at the current kind of market of games of AAA titles, you'll notice that there's a lot of numbers involved. I don't mean like money, but I mean like Call of Duty, what are we on now? Something they've reiterated, but Assassin's Creed 5, they're all, the reason they choose those, to iterate on those is because obviously they're safe titles. They're guaranteed to bring in bring in people in an audience. And I'm sure the people who run these studios would love to work on some new IP, but obviously they have staff and with families that need a reliable source of money. Yeah. So I mean, like I think it's the guys from. Do you remember that game Buzz? Yeah, like I'm pretty sure that. Sorry. Like for the most part, that's the main thing that they produce, but it meant that everyone went home with a full belly and loads of money. Same with Team 17. They've been building Worms for a very long time, and that's great because that's a guaranteed income, but they still get to experiment with stuff. With game jams, you're working over a stupidly short period of time. So if it is rubbish or a complete abomination, you can just throw it away and not have to worry about it. But if it goes well, you can experiment and come up with something great in a very short period of time. Like what Garry did, he built something in 72 hours and basically completely changed the outcome of the next few years for him. Well, I don't know, hopefully not next few years, because that would suggest a very long development time, but yeah, like from just 72 hours worth of work, publishing contract, huge amount of interest for the game. Yeah, it's and if it doesn't work out, you can throw it away, and if it does, then that's brilliant. This is kind of more from a kind of, if you're wanting to form a studio, or like from a perspective of taking a game forwards. If you're, have you guys done any like team-based projects at college? Okay, well, one kind of neat way to figure out whether your teammates are all what's the word? If you could, to get them to put their money where their mouth is to see how they do in a game jam. Because you can put them under high pressure, with a clean slate in a very short period of time to develop something awesome. So if they slack off, then they're not worth going with, and if they work hard, who to pick. And yeah, and that also applies at kind of an employment level, but we'll talk on that in a sec. One of the cool things with it as well is getting to kind of make stuff with other people who you wouldn't usually think. Like, for example, I think one place that is always really underexplored, if that's a word, in games development, especially at kind of an educational level, is adding music to the games, or at least a focus on getting music into games. Which doesn't necessarily mean that you guys have to, crack out the keyboard and try and compose something yourself. Working with other people in the place that you study at, because I'm sure there would be people who are into games who who do music production. So bringing them on board and getting them to produce an awesome soundtrack is always funny as hell, because you'll have like a little pixel block character with like something like a really ridiculously orchestral piece to go with their game. So getting them on board. I know that the game jams that I run, we've just been in contact with engineers, so we're going to be building kind of crazy controllers for people to use. So yeah, it's a good way to kind of branch out and chat to more people. This is kind of a big one, especially for you guys, if you don't want to go down the university route, is game jams are a fantastic way to get yourself noticed by employers. Because with games development in a studio, you're going to be potentially working on something that you've never explored before. It might be something completely different to what you've worked on before, in very high pressure situations. So they want to see what you're capable of in a short period of time under pressure, with a clean slate. So with that in mind, obviously you can, from just doing a couple of game jams, make a fantastic portfolio of work. Yeah, I mean the ones that I've done before, like from seeing what the students and the developers were capable of, whilst it would have taken, some of the module work is like produce a model and do all the stuff in like the space of 6 months or a term. They're doing this in like 12 hours. Fully animated, fully rigged, fully textured, 3D models of like spider monsters at different sizes. And yeah, employers love it. So if you are wanting to get into games development without going to university, you can easily build up a portfolio from doing a bunch of these game jams. And that can either be by going to these events, because they're kind of all over the place, and working from those, or you can just do them online from the comfort of your home. I personally prefer going to the events because they're much more fun. And as well, when you're there, you will network with people. So, the one I mentioned about scouting out potential teammates? Some developers and people who work in companies will go along to events. And obviously, if you look like you're doing a good job, they might consider you for work. I know, like, we had, at the last one we went to, we had Lee from Microsoft, Lee Stott from Microsoft come around and check out all the games, and yeah, if you can show something really awesome to them, then you never know where it'll take you. And let's not forget the most important one of all. I mean, I assume if you guys came here, it's because you like games, and also that I assume you'd love to build them. And this is the quickest way to get it done. Absolutely 100% quickest way to get it done. With as least effort as possible. I mean, concentrated effort would probably be a better word. So yeah, I would strongly suggest that you guys get involved in it. And if you do consider that route, here's kind of some suggestions of things that you probably do and don't want to do when you're kind of going on to do it. Okay, so first things first, a lot of people when they do their first game jam, with most kind of collaborative projects, are like, yeah, you know, let's do this kind of RPG, you know, open world RPG with multiplayer and fully voice acted game. Take that and halve it, because there's no way you'll get it done. At least half that time is going to be down to testing and tweaking and refining it. So go for something that you can, you know, which is achievable, that you think you'll be able to get it done easily. One of the biggest mistakes is people who go, you know what, this idea we'll get it done way too quick. We need to go for something bigger, which happens all the time. Go for that idea, because probably you will take like 6 times longer to get it done, especially if you've not done them before. Next thing would be making sure that you get the base for your game right. With game jam games, unless you've got a decent production team with you, the main thing that is going to make your game, you're not going to be able to have the time to get the polish in for your game. So what you're going to want to do is focus on the stuff that you can really make feel good, which is the mechanics. If you can get the mechanics to feel good, and what I mean by mechanics is like, if it feels fun to play in a short period of time, then, you know, for whatever the experience you wanted to get out of it, if you can get that sorted first, then it doesn't matter what it looks like. Just focus on getting that right, because if you get that right, everything else will come together. Personally, I prefer working at these events with other people. It's much more fun. And it means you can't slack off and go play Xbox or, you know, go for a cig or something like that. It means you're all in the same space, and you can keep an eye on what everyone's doing. And it's fun, you know. Make sure that you get, like, when you're working, make sure that you know what your idea is. Because I'm trying to think of a way to explain this, like, if you all kind of don't know what the core idea is you're going to go for, the likelihood is that you'll end up starting with what you think is the same idea, and as the day goes on, it'll then turn out that you're all working on different things. For example, something that happened recently with a team I was kind of working with, we had 2 programmers who built a level editor, like two separate level editors. So for the day, we had these 2 level editors, and we could obviously only use one, which then caused conflict. So make sure you keep communicating. If you're trying to decide on an idea, visuals are awesome for like getting stuff across to people. You know, there's been times where we've been arguing over the same ideas. The moment we write them down, it makes things like 1,000,000 times easier. So get like a big old sheet of paper and start doodling stuff down, and it'll unify your ideas a lot better. One thing that's very useful for game jams is, with the very first ones that I did, a lot of the programmers I work with would insist on building everything from the ground up. And it's not about that for game jams. It's getting something done quick with the best tools for the job, which in most cases is engines, so things like Unity, UDK, well it's UE4 now, isn't it? Yeah. But if you work with engines, you'll get the job done quicker. You can always iterate and build from that. It doesn't need to be this super scary thing. There's this thing called visual scripting. And yeah, and I understand you guys have been tinkering around in Game Maker. Some of you...
Most of them, yeah.
All of them.
All of them,
yeah.
okay. Just got some people with heavy hands. Okay, but yeah, so these are some examples of stuff that you guys can start tinkering around with. Visual scripting is ridiculously easy. As I said, I've worked with 7-year-olds that have been able to put something together, completely buggy in, like, you know, like where they put like 50,000 characters on the, you know, the same screen and it's crashed it. But it's a lot easier than it used to be. So you guys can, I mean, I'm from a design background and I learned how to build my own games, so it's not that hard. Just persevere with it, start with something simple, and yeah, then you can iterate and build onto more exciting new stuff. Yeah, that's pretty much everything. The only thing I just want to kind of quickly cover is give you an idea of how much you can get done in such a short period of time. So I'm going to invite Gary up onto the stage to play some video games with me. Okay. So, yeah, bear with me just a second. So I'm just going to kind of show you a bunch of like examples of games built at in different times to give you an idea of how much can get done. So we'll start with this one. This is Nosy Barkers. Okay, so this is, so the idea of this one is I got the theme dogs in dresses. So this was basically, I thought the idea of having, you've got to, you know, like the standard practice of dogs is to sniff each other's bottoms. So the idea is you've got to get the head of the dog to touch, so you've got to get the head of the dog to touch the bottom of the other dog's. Yeah, you've got to get the one dog to touch the other dog's bottom with its nose. Does that make sense? Yeah. So, one kind of really useful thing. No, oh, you want. Okay. So. Okay. Hello? Oh man. So one thing that's quite handy to do with game jams is, you know, I was mentioning I'm focusing on the mechanics. Like if you can find ways to cut corners on it, like adding goofy physics, that kind of does a lot of the work for you. You know, yeah, oh my god, this is getting intense. You like Duel of the Fates or something on the background. Another one is making it like just focusing on making it multiplayer, because then you'd have to bother with AI, which can be a lot of work, especially for something that is as quick as this. But yeah, so there's this. That was done in, as I said, 1 hour. It probably will be a while yet before you guys get to that. So this one was just 5 hours. And that was the theme of it was ocean, and yeah, it was basically just kind of focusing on kind of getting a quick mechanic, kind of almost WarioWare style, and then what I did was I combined it with this thing called the Makey, which is like this. You can basically turn anything into a controller. So I made this like Slappad, where I've got people like, you know, slapping these two controls. Oh wow! I just realised it's too big for the screen. Let's zoom out. How do we zoom out? Is that going to work?
Yeah, there we go.
Yes. No, that's definitely not going to work. Okay, right, what we will do, we should still be able to play it. But okay. We can more or less get an idea of what you're meant to do. Just bear with me just a second. Yeah, that works. Okay. So that is, you got to hammer the keys to get your characters to. So the idea of it is lifeguards competing to save the life of someone drowning in the ocean. Come on, let come back. Yeah, there we go. No! So yeah, like that. that just focuses on like kind of core mechanics, nice and simple controls, all about just kind of competitive fun. And some simple visuals, like this was, like, I've got a kind of a sneaky like trick for doing sunsets, which is kind of just take like a vertical slice of an image, like super thin vertical slice, and then just stretch it across, and then add like nice effects to it to make it kind of, and that, you know, it's all, with game jams, it's all about trying to kind of take shortcuts.
Crush.
Yeah, like this one was 12 hours, so you can see as time increases, the production quality goes up. I mean, I hope you assume. But notice how with most of them, yeah, with the majority of them. So this was working with a music guy for the whole day. So we got a very kind of orchestral setup for this. Yeah. Just realised that. Just realised it's going to get really loud when we get pushed. Okay. Carry on. So with this one, the idea is you got to stop the walls from coming in by using your hat, kind of Indiana Jones style. And the idea is to try and kind of screw over your opponent by trapping them in the maze. And yeah, there you go. But your hat loses life over time. So you've got to try and wear yes. You got to try and wear it enough to kind of regain the health for it, lest you die horribly. And yeah, like this was like 12 hours work, and you know, from that there's already been interest for, you know, it to go to events, which is cool. If you guys are going to do anything, like for now, like trying to get your game like sold is kind of, the focus should be trying to get it at events and showing it to people, because it's an awesome experience. Like oh right. Oh, it's still, oh man, safety sin. Okay, so the idea with it is to try and push the person back. Bye, Gary. Oh wait, that's just like. You are winning. Yeah. So yeah, like so that was. Let's switch that off. So yeah, with that was 12 hours of work. So production. So as time goes on, you get a bit more production value, but it's still achieving this stuff in a stupidly short period of time. And this was working with a couple of other artists and a musician, of course. And yeah, like for the amount, like from just doing game jams, if you kind of break that down into time, in less than a day, I got 3 games done. Like, and as well, there was another game that I worked on. The game jam that I most recently did, I got 2 games done in 2 days. So if you figure that out with all the time spent on those games, in like 24 hours, 4 games done. So like, this is to kind of give you guys like a perspective that if you really put the time in, learn to, you know, to build your own games, which isn't too hard. If you can invest yourselves into that, you can be pumping games out like no one's business. And yeah, you should, because I mean, the commercial stuff's great, but it's just fun. Yeah. So I mean, there's events all over the UK which are looking for people to take places at these events. So if you can build something awesome.
Yeah, Insomnia is great. We've been to Insomnia a few times.
Yeah.
A multiplayer event down in Coventry.
Yeah, and they practically just throw the places at people to go along to. The other thing is as well, is there are, I don't know about around here, but you should definitely have a look. There are a lot of networking events where you can only go if you're producing games. So if you take that initiative and get some games out there for people to play, then you're laughing, because you'll be, you know, kind of shoulder to shoulder with some of the people who've been in it for 40 years, you know, fully developing games, and you'll have got away with doing like, I don't know, 12 hours work, and yeah, it's huge opportunities await if you go along this route. Kind of a useful website to kind of look at for when the next ones are. The one just went was the Global Game Jam. That was what was it, last weekend?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was this weekend.
Yeah. So I mean, like right at the moment now, there's 4 game jams. That's just in this like span of days at the moment that you could go along to and get involved in.
I didn't even know about this.
Yeah, super good website. Definitely get involved in. If anything gets in your head, and I assume from an hour of conditioning of me talking about game jams, do game jams because they're super awesome and amazing. Okay, thank you. Any questions? So how many of you want to be artists? Oh, we got heavy hands again.
Actually, put your hands in the air. It helps.
Right.
I'm not gonna come along with an axe and hack them down. Or something. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Okay, so yeah, you can put your hands down now. Don't worry. Some stuff that might be useful for you to know. For artists, I mean, from what Gary was saying earlier about specializing, the main thing you want to do as an artist, and you might have different, I don't know. We'll see. But from talking to a bunch of different studios, the main thing that they emphasize for things like concept artists is life drawing, which, if you guys don't know, is basically going into a room and doing figure drawing. So it's getting an idea of weight and figure and how the body is structured, and it teaches you to draw at different speeds. So it's almost a bit like a game jam for an art side of things. So it's seeing how quickly you can iterate something, because in the games industry, it's all about quality and speed. So you could take 10 weeks doing a beautiful kind of doing something really stunning, but in that 10 weeks it's turned out that it's no longer relevant, so you can just shred that and start something new. You have to be like super quick. I worked with a fine artist this summer, and for him, compared to working months on a painting, he had to work hours on painting. It was a very different experience for him. So get the skills in first, do life drawing, and carry a notepad around with you. Big thing. Always have a sketchbook.
Guys, can you just show them your sketchbooks?
Yes, sure.
This is what we expect you to have. Anytime you've got a little idea or a little doodle, get it out and get it down, because you're not going to remember it.
Yeah.
These guys came in and this is what they do on the train.
I mean, there's it's kind of like an Event Horizon thing. It's there's a lot of terrifying stuff in here, but like,
business
game
stuff.
Ideas,
more business
things, ideas, just anything that pops into your head, just doodle it down. Ideas.
And that's what a brainstorm looks like.
Yeah, like this was me sketching down. Oh, this was another game jam I did. El Presidente. This was like, the idea is you got one guy at the front who's giving a speech who has to type with the keyboard. One guy in the crowd using the arrow keys who has to assassinate the president before he finishes his speech. And then one guy with the mouse who has to spot the sniper and shoot him with one bullet before he gets to the front.
Did you release that?
Yeah, it's online.
I played that.
Awesome. That's cool. That's fun when that happens. But yeah, and with that you get a little Polaroid as well. So like you can kind of get a rough idea as it develops of who you're looking for as the sniper. And that was like, doodling it out in a book just kind of, allowed me to flesh it out. I mean, another example this morning. I mean, I haven't actually finished doing it, but like I had a dream last night about, I don't even know why I had this dream, but about skipping guns across a lake. So like you skip it across, and then as it goes across you fire and it launches it in a different direction. Like doodling it down the train to figure out the mechanics, and I was like trying to figure out how to do a visual indicator of speed. And figured out by drawing it down that you can kind of have the circles get smaller and smaller as it's losing velocity. So unless you have it's so easy to forget an idea. There's a really funny kind of short comic online where you've got this guy. He's kind of figuring out this calculation, and you see it just kind of grow and grow and grow, and then suddenly this guy just comes along and says like, "Hey, you know, I've sent you that email," and it all just goes and disappears. Unless you get it down on paper, it's like what Gary was saying, like back up your mental ideas in a sketchbook. Unless you do something like this, which hopefully I've got with me. I don't know if I have because it's probably in like sketchbook hospital at the moment. Nope, it is here. Unless you're stupid and leave your sketchbook on the floor in a tent, which is a terrible, terrible idea. Yeah. You've got a reference for of all your kind of ridiculous ideas written down, which is great. Super great, because then what you can do is you can go back and see all the cool stuff you've done. Like this little sketch, and it always leads to new ideas. Like this tiny little sketch here, this led to like a full-blown like finished game. Where I was designing aliens, and it was like, hey, wouldn't it be funny if you had chickens which could use their hands to like shoot weapons and stuff? Yeah. So then I was like, yeah, let's make it into a full game. And then this summer I built it into a full-blown like game with the artist I was telling you about. So unless you have like something to write it down with and develop, yeah. Oh wow. Yeah. And it's like, and then we got trailer and all sorts of crazy stuff came from it. Put on the trailer.
Push it on the trailer.
Yeah. It doesn't. Oh, volume. Oh, still playing the volume from Crush.
Oh, I'm still dying.
Okay. We were kind of
What is this?
Visuals and gameplay. The outstanding menagerie and
wait for it. But yeah, like that game wouldn't have come into existence if I hadn't had my sketchbook. Get a sketchbook over everything else. Well, actually, game jams and sketchbooks. Cool? Okay, right. Anything to add?
Useful sites.
Yeah, some useful websites to look at.
Gamsutra. Post jobs up there. You can sort of see latest industry jobs. Alex does you do a lot of like posts on here.
Yeah, you can
like blog stuff.
always get like the random images and the kind of weird drawings always appearing up on that. TIG source would probably be a useful one.
Oh right, go on. Is it just TGIS?
It might be blocked. Hopefully not. But this is kind of a nice way to get experience without being in the industry. TIG forums. Business, so if you scroll like a little bit more. Yeah, paid offering paid work. Yeah, there we go. So like this is like a list of people who are offering money for you to work for them. And yeah, like just scroll through. Programming art, pixel artists, 3D modelers. If you do a bunch of these jobs, then like you can say that you've been involved in these projects.
I didn't even know about this, so
yeah, it's super awesome site.
So that's what TIG source.
TIG source. And as well with that, if you guys develop games, you can put them on there and get feedback from developers in industry. It's probably one of the biggest collections of games developers on the web.
So you've got those two sources, and then sort of something for you artists, polycount. Stick your work up on there, get some feedback. The community is really sort of welcoming, as long as you're sort of willing to accept criticism.
Yeah.
If
Big one.
If you post something up and there's a few things wrong with it, someone will spot it out. If you make a gun, these people go crazy and they're like, this needs to be like half an inch like longer, or it's not. I've got this gun and it's not doesn't match up to what you've been doing. So, and again, there's a part-time, full-time, mod work stuff in here as well. So
It's just,
three communities to look at.
it's a great way to get experience very early on. You know, if you can go to an employer that you've worked on 10 different projects, that's great. I mean, even, you know, so that combined with doing game jams, that's like a huge amount. And in some cases more than what, you know, even university students come away with. Because at the end of the day, I was talking to Simon. He's a former guy at Rockstar, and he said the main two things that you need coming out of university, or when you're going for a job in the industry, is a qualification and a portfolio. You know, if you just have the piece of paper, there's like a line of like a bazillion people with a piece of paper, but you have to have the portfolio to twin with it as well. And
it's like design roles as well. Like if you sort of looking, like we do a concept development module, like I mentioned before, and that's like, oh, you've got to write a game design document. You're not going to go into like an interview with a 20,000 word design document. This is the best game ever. Boom, read it. They're not going to give a shit.
Play it. That's what you want to be able to do.
Build prototypes, and you can visually, you know, if you can play your ideas, that's, you know, far more valuable.
Quick question: how many of you want to be designers? Be the guy at the top of the chain, being like, I want to do this idea. I want to do this idea. How many of you want to bring your ideas to fruition? Okay, right. What can you guys do? It's like a question, because like everyone has ideas. So what you need to be able to do is to bring your ideas to fruition. If you can show that you can do that, then yeah, you'll put yourself in a lot better position if you can say, I have these ideas, and they've become something. Yeah, that will put you in a lot better position for a job. And like even taking everything like from the commercial and business side, it's just fun to make games. So much fun. So much fun. Okay.
One last shout out, Sketchfab, of course, for you 3D artists out there. Again, upload your model, and there it is, real time, nice shading, and you can toggle on wireframes and do all sorts with it. So another free resource for students as well. So
probably the best resource out there for you guys. And I've no idea if you're using it properly. It might be just for posting up pictures of, you know, what you had for dinner. Twitter.
Oh.
Okay, how many of you guys have Twitter accounts?
Follow me.
Okay.
Follow Alex.
Okay. The thing, how many of you use it? Well, this has hands up again really quickly again. Okay, how many of you actually use it for something that isn't social? I mean, obviously it's a social thing, but like, how many of you use it for like forwarding your careers?
Do you post your work up on there?
Okay. That would be what you, like, Twitter is a super useful tool for like networking. So even if you can't get to these events, you can get yourself nicely engrossed in the development community by posting your work up often, engaging with other developers. Like all of the events that I've been along to. Yeah, all of the events that I've been along to have been for free. And the only reason I got that opportunity was because I found the events through Twitter. And when I say events, I mean like some of the biggest festivals in the UK for games development. And that was totally, oh dear. Gary.
What's up? That's a good picture.
Yeah, with mouth wide open. You caught me mid.
Right. That was us this morning.
Yeah. but
Pictures of sub-level. My laptop charger broke yesterday, so I was like angry.
But yeah, so but what the great thing is that you can, for example, do things like promote other developers, and if you do that, you can get in touch with those developers and find yourself contacts in industry. You can find out about events. You know what? I've got like a very sneaky secret, which I'll tell you guys how to do. Basically, if you go through the credits of a game and you find the area that you're interested in. So let's say, you know, an environment. If you want to do environment art, you can go down to the section with the environment artists, find the names, and get in touch on Twitter.
You got to put that.
Have any of you guys seen this game?
Put that trailer out.
I've seen the trailer.
It's so awesome.
Yeah.
Oh my god! Like
Best trailer.
because we're doing like a very similar sort of aesthetic for sub-level 0. you know, we sort of reached out to the Strafe devs and we're like, oh my god, like, you know, the game looks awesome, you know, let's give me all your art secrets, basically. They've been really, really nice, you know, really approachable, you know.
But most people through Twitter are just so easy to access. Yeah, volume.
Yeah.
So much easier to access people through Twitter. If you email them, it'll get lost in an ocean of emails. If you contact them through Twitter, it's a piece of cake. So I would suggest get Twitter if I were you guys. I know it'll seem pretty narcissistic initially, posting stuff up about yourself, but you don't just have to do stuff about yourself. You can promote other people and talk about games development.
Again, sort of in my talk, I was a bit like, you should make this network of people and be able to call upon them for favours. And it's like, I've made so many like genuine friends by networking. You know what I mean? Sort of like as a, it sounds a bit like, sort of, I don't know, like I network to sort of use someone to further my career, but you sort of end up making these friendships, genuine friendships with people. And, I probably should have mentioned that.
Yeah, it's cool.
Just about networking.
I mean, it should be about having fun. Like, at the end of the day, you guys are going to be able to kind of laugh in the faces of other people who have, like, really boring jobs in, like, 20 years, and you guys are building video games for a living. You know, it's like, yeah, I'm a systems marketing analyst, defragment, and something boring. And then you're going to be like, I build video games for a living, and I make money from it, and I'm happy. Ha. You know, like that's awesome. Like the fact that you guys can make that happen is amazing, and you should try and push for it as much as you can, because it's one of the best things ever.
Are there any other sites?
So do that. Okay. Other sites? Nothing. That's pretty much everything. Yeah, we won't keep you guys for any longer. If you have any questions or any feedback you want, probably.
Completely off on a tangent.
Let's get a like how do I announce text edit? That's Mac. Notepad, that's the one. Okay, this screen is so weird. Okay, super high tech. How do I make this bigger? How do I zoom in? Control, mouse scroll. Mouse wheel.
You can on.
Nope. Okay.
Use Word.
So for all of you Twitter heads versus coding, that's the one for me. This won't zoom in.
What format is it?
Format. Font. Wow. Super high tech.
Yes.
Man. Okay, there we go. Boom. Hopefully it doesn't go off the screen. So that's the Twitter handle for me. Twitter handle for Gary, as you saw before. Gary Lloyd. Lloyd 89, there we go. Yeah, and if you guys want to get in touch, probably blur. I don't mind really. But if you guys want to get in touch, that's my email. Get in touch, ask me any questions. I'll be more than happy to help. This is another thing that's really, really nice about the games industry is that even though like it is quite competitive,
it's nice, but it's nice, but it's also a bit like of a risk. Like if you're a dick, then the community is quite small. So
everyone talks.
You know, everyone sort of talks to each other, and everyone sort of knows someone. You know what I mean?
Be generous. And people will be generous back. Yeah. Always help one another.
Nice.
It's really great. Everyone helps each other out. Yeah, and most people will be willing to do things like help you out for free. I mean, obviously, people will charge you for certain things, but a lot of people will go further than what you'd expect. So yeah, that's fantastic. And as I said, if you guys have any questions, feedback, blah 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 blah, get in touch.
Is there anything that do you feel like you've sort of like I don't know,
motivated
you, giving you knowledge? Like, do you feel like sitting here for the past 2 hours has been useful to you, or are you sort of sat there going, "This was crap"? Like, if so, like just tell us, like, because you know, I think you've done a few talks. I'm still relatively new to this, so I don't know.
2 games in these 2 hours.
Yeah, there you go, 2 games. To be fair, I'm craving to do that shooting stone one. But yeah, if you guys have any questions, if you want to chat afterwards, more than welcome to spend the time and give you guys any more advice, unless you just want to go and empty your brains and go to sleep. Right, thank you.
Thank you very much, guys.
Cool.